Hello, how's everyone doing this evening? Thank you so much for joining me. I am excited to begin this journey as I continue to share my son's story. Uh, we're in the middle of Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm grateful to have this conversation with the Dark Side of Sports, Dr. Katie Alexander. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her onto the live. Hello, hello.
Hi there.
How you doing this evening?
I am all right. How are you?
I can't complain. I can't complain. I'm grateful to be back home in South Florida right now and just, doing this work. Um, and so it's been a journey. It's been a lot of tears already, but we're making it happen regardless.
Yeah,
hmm
that's pretty good way to go through May, I guess. Being that
Absolutely.
it's, yeah.
Absolutely. So I wanted to say congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That is a feat to accomplish. Just how many years were you in school?
Oh, so if you want me to count not the PhD, it would have been like like 28 years if you count kindergarten and all of that.
That's a lifetime, literally, literally. So definitely congratulations.
So, thank you though.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I went ahead and I opened up the questions. I went over them, of course, when you sent them earlier, but I wanted to have them in front of me as we go through this process. Just to make sure that I stay on topic myself, because I tend
All,
to ramble.
all good. Yeah, I'm pretty flexible. But now I want to ask more questions about probably sport because I feel like I was missing some of that, and then I thought about it like, wait, because I probably want to actually ask about your own sport experiences before even becoming a parent. I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah, I actually did have my own sport experiences, but I chose the creative side. Coming into high school, I made my final decision to go into the arts. So, but sports and entertainment have a lot of the same.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, feel free to divert if you just what I'm definitely just going with the flow. And I think based on our preliminary conversation, I just feel comfortable speaking with you. So I think we'll be fine.
yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Sounds good. Start with questions. So obviously you are a part of now many organizations. How would you describe your involvement with all these different organizations?
So a lot of what is happening today was already written in business plans back in 2011, 12, and 13. And Bryce, at that age, was like a reader. He loved to read everything. And so he was the one that read a lot of my business plans. And throughout middle school and high school, um, for instance, after he passed, a couple of days after he passed, a lot of the young people were coming to the hotel where we were placed. And if I didn't know them, I would ask them a couple questions to kind of see how close they were to Bryce. One of those questions was, what did Bryce want to be when he grew up? And if you said that he wanted to be a football player or an NFL player or an athlete, then I knew that you weren't that close. But if you said something like a veterinarian because he loved animals, or you said a neurologist because he watched his mom suffer through epilepsy, or if you said entrepreneur because he wanted to own multiple businesses, then I knew that you had a deeper level of understanding between you and Bryce. Well, there was this one lady named Gabby, and when she told me her name, I knew who she was immediately because he used to share all the stories. So I was like, oh my gosh, Gabby, it's so finally to meet you. And I asked her the question, and she literally gave me an idea that I had for a club in detail. And I was like, that's my idea. And he was like, oh, Bryce presented it as one of his projects for school as his idea.
Oh, that's funny.
And so a lot of his peers are aware of my dreams.
Yeah,
And I didn't know that until after he passed. Some of them were aware that they were mine. Some of them were just aware of the dream and didn't know who it belonged to, thought it was his. But when we decided to start the foundation, it was in response because we didn't know exactly what we wanted to do. It could have been a scholarship, it could have been a foundation, it could have been many different things. And so once we decided to start the foundation, that came about because it was myself, my then therapist, and 44 of Bryce's friends and peers all cramped into my townhouse discussing what we were going to do in memory of Bryce. And so, I'm a think tank person. I've help people build brands and businesses as a career. And so, just throwing out the ideas to them, some of them were aware that these ideas already existed, but they also amplified those ideas. And so we have the Bryce Gowdy Foundation, which is like our hub, but we also have, they're getting ready to launch the Bryce Gowdy and Friends charity because they want to be able to infiltrate the school system and the communities with actual programs and receive the grant money to do so. And, foundations work differently from charities in the sense that foundations can only publicly fund up to 15%. So everything that we've been doing has really kind of been out of our pockets through the foundation. And now it's like, let's launch the charity so we can apply for grants and be publicly funded 100% so that we can now have the programming running because now we have programming that we'd like to implement. And then, of course, they want to have a gala because they've been putting in the work now for 6 years. And it's time for them to celebrate. Bryce's number is 7. This is the 7th year without him, and next year would be the 7th year that they've been putting in the work. So a lot of what we have going on is not just my idea. It's probably fueled by some of the ideas that I've had, but it really just took a mind of its own because of all his peers that came together and decided to build this with me.
yeah. I There are so many thoughts that I have because it seems like it's kind of a butterfly effect with both you and Bryce and back and forth, and there's like this cat all these cascading effects, which when you look back, it's like kind of amazing that that happened the way it did. And what I like the most, like that you mentioned, is like most people think that football players or athletes are like simple characters and they just want to be in the NFL or they just want to play sport and they don't have anything else about them.
Mhm.
But Bryce clearly was a very complex person. Like he had just a lot of character and a lot of nuances. And
Yes,
sometimes people don't treat you that way necessarily if they don't know you that well. They just see
absolutely. They
the,
just see you as the machine. I used to tell Bryce and a lot of the athletes, like, you guys are the modern day gladiators. Specializing in your own fields, but each of you are pushing your bodies and your minds to extremes compared to the average population. And I don't think that we have the tools and the skills and the resources in place, especially through our school system. Sorry, especially through our school systems to really guide our athletes. I don't think our coaches are trained in in the mental and emotional capacity to truly grow healthy athletes. And it's kind of heartbreaking because you really cannot blame them because they're also part of a system.
exactly. And speaking of gladiators, oftentimes athletes have to kind of give up their autonomy in order to be a part of this team and to perform and to do well and to represent. So it's very unfortunate, both thinking about, especially long term, because a lot of people don't make it to college, don't make it to NFL or pro or semi pro.
That's right. That's right. And when you think about it, there's a lot of young people that are lost after their athletic journey, and compared to the ones that quote unquote make it. And then when you also look at the ones that make it, a lot of them, it's like, at what cost? At
Exactly.
what cost?
Yeah. Often you have, as an athlete, you basically have to, especially professional, you're going, you're going to go down, or you are just decide like you need to help have like a multifaceted college
Hmm. Hmm.
athletic. So that really, Bryce really sounds like a really interesting person, and I probably would have found him very interesting if I was with him. Can you tell me a little bit about like his personality growing up?
Bryce is a goofball. So as a baby, he did everything very quickly. I mean, he came out the womb with muscles. It was the weirdest thing. But he was also very active in the womb. Like, that was like, everybody mentioned how active he was anytime they came around me, and aggressively active on a regular basis. Uh, he was a fighter from before birth. I almost miscarried him 7 times. His name was supposed to be Seven, and my mom told me that if I named him Seven, that she would disown me. Matter of fact, we thought it was a girl, and I was going to name her Seven. And she said she was going to disown me, so I changed it to Brianna. And then, I mean, like a month before I gave birth, I found out he was a boy, so I went and found the name Bryce. But after he was born, like, he did everything very quickly. Like, he was speaking sentences. He said his first word at 6 months, but was speaking sentences, like short sentences, within 2 to 3 weeks after that. And I remember my father telling me, once he starts talking, he's never going to stop. And literally, Bryce talked to me up until his last moments that he walked away from me. Um, and that's one of the things that I treasure the most, is that he used to come home and share his life with me. He made me a part of it, even though, I know I'm not the type of mom that infiltrates the friend group. But the friend group always wanted to be around me, and he didn't really let them around me either. So, but he still made sure that I knew who was who and what was going on, and that was just a very special thing. But it also highlighted his ability to identify human behaviors and patterns from a very young age. And so it's like 9 years old, he came and asked me, "Mommy, can you help me understand and practice transcendence?" I'm laying in my bed. It's like late Saturday morning, and what are you? He's standing at the foot of my bed. What are you talking about? And he's like, I understand, meditation, because, we practiced meditation as a family growing up. But he was like, and I've been practicing lucid dreaming. That's news to me. I'm fully aware of what you're talking about here, but all of this is just like, okay, I'm listening. And he's like, but I want to understand and practice transcendence, but I want to talk to you about it first. So I'm like, well, where did you hear these things from? And he was like, well, Poppy has his books in the study, and my dad's a metaphysical doctor and psychologist, so you can imagine the type of books that are there. And he's like, and I'm in gifted classes at school, so he recognized, he was like, I'm around, kids that are a little bit more wealthy and more cultured and different cultures. And so this is how he's expressing this to me at 9 years old. He's now going into the fourth grade. And I'm just like, okay, I can only help you with transcendence as much as I understand it, but it's not something that I tamper with, because I like to stay in this realm. I like to I like to stay here a lot. I'm a Capricorn. I'm grounded. Earth. I'm very much Earth. So we're giggling, and then he's like, I just explained to him that transcendence is the ability to explore outside of your physical being. And then I went to my mom, and my mom, talked to him and was like, that's something that you want to be mindful when you look into, because sometimes you can get lost mentally. And that's not something that you want to risk if, you don't really understand what you're doing. So definitely, continue doing your research, but I wouldn't suggest that you practice. What do you do with a kid like that?
Yeah, that's it.
I have to catch up, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to now go do my research now to go catch up to the conversations that he's bringing to me. And this is me understanding that I'm uniquely raised myself, because I'm raised in a household where my father is a metaphysical doctor. He's a psychologist. My mom teaches medical management, billing and coding, and career, and preparedness and those things for her career, and she's in health and wellness. So and I'm West Indian, so there's the roots, there's the herbs, and my grandmother bringing the lemongrass from St. Croix, and bringing the cow tongue and the nettle, and teaching us. And this is before I know the word herbology.
Mm,
She's just bringing these things from her garden at home and telling us, this will help you with this ailment, and this will help you with, put this on your knee when you get inflammation. And so it that's I understood from a very young age that I was raised differently, and I understood that my children would be raised differently. However, I did not expect for me to have a child that would be so diligent in his own research and discovery. Um, and I was not prepared for that. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I felt a lot of times like I was catching up.
yeah, yeah. What's interesting in parenting research, a lot of times it focuses on the parent, but parents are reacting to their child, you know?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
the child like does influence some behaviors. And it sounds like Bryce again was like very almost too curious sometimes probably. Where it's like,
Absolutely.
please don't do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, and that has always been a thing from a very young age. I remember in preschool, 4 years old, the award that he won was most likely to succeed in tech, because he was the one that was fixing the computers in daycare. I didn't teach him how to fix anything. And he was also the one that was able to jailbreak things easily. Like he wasn't allowed to have a smartphone in middle school. Um, and so he learned how to jailbreak his Kindle so he can access the social media app Kick.
Mm,
And the kids were having a lot of fun on Kick back in the day.
yes.
Yeah, so he found his little ways to kind of keep up with his peers. And then even when he couldn't, because he had a flip phone in middle school,
Mhm.
so when he couldn't keep up with his peers, he would make the things that they would tease him about cool. So like when he would flip his flip phone out, he would like do it drastically, and just this whole show with charm and swag, and now everybody wants a flip phone like Bryce.
That's great. So it sounds like, did he have a lot of like close friends and friendships and he was just a real social butterfly, or was he more of like an introverted, like to himself?
He was an ambivert.
Mm.
He was an ambivert. He was definitely more introverted, but he understood his star power from a young age. He understood that he was very likable. He understood that people wanted to be around him. He understood that people gravitated to him. And I raised my children to be around all walks of life. I mean, we were out feeding the homeless when he was, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I had him in, like, for instance, we technically grew up in the suburbs.
Mhm.
And so there's that dynamic too. He's a black kid that's growing up in the suburbs, but I had him playing football in the hood. All right. And so he recognized those dynamics in middle school and was speaking on that. He was an IB International Baccalaureate when he entered into middle school. My middle son, his little brother, was in regular classes, and he recognized that there's a difference in the education and that there was even some bold-faced lies in some of the textbooks that my son had, but he was actually getting the truth in International Baccalaureate.
Mhm.
And so he was also very revolutionary, like him growing his locks. If you watch younger images of Bryce, you would see that he's very clean cut, very, but my brothers have locks, and it's not something that we're not familiar with within our family, but we always understood that there's a stigma that comes with that. And so I remember when he wanted to grow his locks coming into middle school, I was like, no, especially with you being an athlete, let's wait until you're an adult, because I just don't want you to have to deal with that type of mental stress and emotional stress. It's not that I don't want you to have locks. I just don't want you to have to deal with what comes with it.
Mhm.
By the time he got into high school, ninth grade, he came and gave me a whole speech and was like, Mommy, I want to grow my locks because I want to be a natural man. He was like, you're a natural woman. You wear natural hair. You don't wear lashes. You don't wear nails. Like, he was like, I just want to be like you. And I want to be like the like Bob Marley and J. Cole and the other black men that are good spirited and are have their locks, because I want to be that example to my peers. He was like, there's a lot of my peers out there doing dumb stuff and they're wearing locks and they're bringing a bad image to the style. And he was like, but it's not even a style, it's a way of life. And so that's when I let him grow his locks. And he wanted to freeform. He was like, I don't even want to manicure them and twist them. I want to freeform them and let them grow like branches on a tree. So, okay, fine. Go ahead. I appreciate your dissertation. And I go ahead, do your thing. So that was how he also got what he wanted. And mind you, he brought that up on our last night together. He was like, "Mommy, I'm a good communicator, aren't I? I know how to talk and get anything I want." And I was like, "Yeah, you do." I was like, "I taught you well." He called himself the finesse king. And so, but he always came from a place of love, of wanting to, wanting the best for others. And that's another thing. I remember. When he was like 4 or 5, we moved to Texas. I got married, we moved to Texas, and I put on a lot of weight and I got sick, very sick. And by the time I was 30, the doctors were telling me I wasn't going to live to see my 35th birthday. And he said it in front of my family. And so Bryce is like scared, like my mom's not going to be here for too much longer. And then I ended up losing the weight. And then I was separated from my children for like a year and a half, about a year and 13 months to be exact. But when I came back into my home, um, I remember him saying, he was like, Mommy, I had a dream that you was big mommy and you were mean and you were angry all the time and you used to beat us. He said, but then you lost all the weight and then you became fun mommy and you started playing with us. And I was like, boy, that's not a dream. That's what's happening for real. How you gonna check me like that? Like, don't try to check me in a dream.
Children always do that.
Right? Um, and so great communicator, you know. But then it turned into him waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to make sure that I was up at 5 in the morning to get to the gym before I had to take them to school, because he recognized that health brought more joy and love and happiness into our lives. And so then it became a competition. Oh, mommy, when I get to practice today, I'm gonna run 4 laps. And I'm like, that's okay. I'm running 2 miles. Okay, all right. Now I'm like, okay, Bryce, I'm running 5 miles. What you doing? He was like, oh, hey, nothing. I'm like, okay, well now I'm running 5 miles in less than 40 minutes. What you doing? So it just grew from there. So um, even in academics, both me and his father went to Deerfield Beach Middle School. And, his father came out as a star athlete. Academics, he made it. That's all I'm gonna say. He made it. We know how that works a lot of times with the athletes that are stars too. Uh, but it was very important to Bryce to be the nerd that I was in middle school. That my reputation was the nerdy black girl, that thought she was all that, that grew up in, I hate to say it, but that grew up in Crackertown, right? That's how I was labeled, um, and I was punished for it,
Mhm.
right? And so now my son is going to school with some of my peers' kids, and even though they may not say a lot, there's enough being said, there's enough questions being asked for my son to recognize that, um, the type of reputation that I had, and also recognize that he was also being treated that way as a young black male that is growing up in the same community and intelligent and so on and so forth. And so it was important to him to be the best academically. I was in Quest, which was the pilot for the International Baccalaureate in class of 2000. We were the pilot for everything, FCAT, everything. 5 paragraph essays. It all started with us. So here it is. He wanted to follow in my footsteps, but he also got introduced to Little League, and that's when he discovered his father's reputation. And so now he wants to outshine his father too. And so that became a big driving force, is to live up to my mom's academic success and music success, because he joined the band and was playing drums, and at one point he picked up the saxophone. And so to to embrace that side of himself, but he also wanted to be better than his father in athletics, especially academically, bringing that academic side along with his athletics, because then that would supersede his father's legacy. And so Bryce was a very, very intuitive and empathic, strong psychic abilities, strong human behavior pattern recognition from a very young age, extremely sensitive to energy, facial expressions, body language. Like, you couldn't, anybody you talk to about Bryce, they will tell you that you couldn't be around him and he didn't know what was going on with you, where you were mentally and emotionally, before you even said a word.
Yeah. And I'm getting a lot of different and interesting paths. I do want to mention that cultural piece of like navigating multiple social worlds at once is very hard. There's not a lot of research on it. I'm more familiar with it anecdotally because I live in a area in Dallas and grew up in an area in Dallas that is one of the most densely populated Black African American areas in like at this point. So I ran track, but I had to go long distance.
Hmm, hmm.
Woo! I played soccer real well. Um,
Yeah, those legs.
yes, and
Hmm.
I played soccer, and then I would go up north to play soccer, and there was no soccer available in the South at that competitive level. So I see it's so complicated to navigate that all the sociocultural piece. But it sounds like Bryce is really aware of that and like trying to go back and forth and navigate the different worlds almost, and then also it sounds like whether unintentional or not, when you are sensitive to energy, if you let it all in, that's a lot of like pressure and a lot of energy and a lot of mental exhaustion
Right.
from
It's
being,
especially coming into high school.
yes. So being that person is so much work on you, you know? So you kind of briefly mentioned, so part of what brought him into sport was maybe his dad. What
Well,
sport?
what brought him into the sport was me going through my divorce
Okay.
and just being piss pot poor, starting over and reclaiming my health all at the same time. So like, I'm coming from like damn near off of my deathbed, and just I think like the first 2 years, sixth and seventh grade, I just really focused on my health. I wasn't focused on bringing in an income or anything like that. Um, I went and we were back home with my parents. But that was also a toxic environment. So it was stable, but it was still toxic.
Mhm.
And so, just being in that environment, I definitely made sure we got into therapy because I was like, we're going through this. We moved back home from Houston because we actually settled down pretty nice in Houston, but my marriage took a turn and like my health got bad and then my marriage took a turn. And it got toxic, and I'm the type person I remove myself. I don't really stick around for it, especially coming from an abusive childhood. And so, but my divorce was very brutal, and my children needed therapy. We all did coming out of that. So that's how the therapy started, was through my divorce. But even before that, my second son, I put him in therapy in 9 months, but that's another story because this isn't about him, and he don't really like be talking about him anyway. But that's just to show you the type of mom that I
Yeah.
was. Like, I put my son in therapy when he was 9 months old. And
Mhm.
people are like, there's therapy for babies. Yes, there's therapy for babies. Go find it. It works. Because he was going through it. And so um, I've always been that mom, right? So and then when we moved to Houston, we were in church. I felt like I had found a church home that resonated with, kind of how I was raised in church, which was different because my church is my father's church and he's a metaphysical doctor.
Mm.
That part. So it's difficult to find a church that resonates with me, that's as open minded as I need it to be. And so that was a blessing. And through that church, we did receive counseling. So while they were 3, 4, 5 years old, they were receiving counsel through church. But then when we got back home and I was going through the divorce, I went ahead and went through the county and received some services through them. So yeah, they were in therapy from about 8 and 9 years old. At that same time is when they started football because they had school, and then they got the Boys and Girls Club. But I needed something after that because now I'm going back to work,
Mhm.
and so that was their way. And not only that, but that summer we were at Westside Park looking to see what activities were available. We were looking at everything: baseball, soccer. We were looking at everything. But the coaches saw my children and saw how big they were for their age and was like, Mama, you don't have to pay for nothing. We got them.
Football.
And
Yeah.
to this day, I have never spent a dime on football.
Mhm.
My children have been very well invested in. And I think that speaks volumes.
Yes, it's pretty interesting. They wouldn't do that for like soccer, but they'll do it for football because football has money, but also they do it. They recruit still. Um,
My children were recruited and given scholarships at 8 and 9 years old. And as soon as my son was 3 when they were on the field, and they wanted him too
mhm.
because he looked like he was 6. He was bigger than the 5 and 6 year olds. So as soon as he turned 5, they wanted him right on the field. I took him out though because I was like, this is just too young. I don't like it. And really and truly, I felt like it was too young for my other two, but I needed something and it was free.
Yeah.
So I fell for the okey doke. And, so that's how they got into football. But it was his father's old little league team. So once he showed up after a few games, he went through the whole first summer of practice. Nobody knew who he was really. But once the game started and you start hearing the last name called out, and they're like, who your daddy? And yeah, that's once everybody realized who his father was, I couldn't stop the stories.
Mhm.
I couldn't stop the stories, um, both positive and negative stories. And I wasn't ready for my sons to know the negative about their father because he wasn't there to tell them himself. He wasn't there to be able to explain anything himself.
Hmm.
And when they would come to me with questions, I didn't have that many questions because my experience wasn't a lot of other women's experiences with him.
Mm.
So, and I prefer to only speak from my experiences.
Hmm.
And so, based on that, your father always opened my door. He never yelled at me. He's never cursed at me. He's never made me feel less than. He's never done anything like that. He just had his own issues that was causing him to delay his own growth in his own life. But that didn't have nothing to do with me. You see what I'm saying? And I can't force him to grow faster than he's growing. And I would just explain to my son that we have to forgive him because everybody grows at their own pace in different areas of their life. And so I was like, you're going to be hurt, you're going to be angry, you're going to be, you're going to be upset with him, but just allow the door to be open so that you can at least get to know him,
Hmm.
good or bad. At least you get to know him. And that's just kind of how I would just deal with that. But yeah, the community had a lot to say. So I would say this: when I was pregnant with him, there was a couple times like I would run into people like in a store that knew me, and they'll be like, "Who are you pregnant for?" Because it was just a shock that I was even pregnant. Me, the goody two shoe that played orchestra and made A's and D's, pregnant at 19,
Hmm.
shock, big shock. So everybody wanted to know like, who's the father? And when I'd be like Frankie, they'd be like, Frankie who? Gowdy? And I'm like, yeah. And like one of the first things that was said was he had a lot of hoes.
Oh, that's mean to just say that outright too.
To the pregnant woman
Yeah.
that did not know this about him in that present moment. Now, did I hear stories about him in middle school and high school? Yes. But I didn't have those experiences when I was dealing with him. And so, not to say they weren't happening, I just wasn't aware.
Hmm.
So, Bryce is growing up in an environment where that's kind of the same exact language he's getting.
Yes.
Because I don't know if you know about the black community, but have you ever been to a football game in the black community? Like they talk reckless a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like they talk around the kids like the kids are grown. So yeah, there was no, especially the men. There was no real holding back. And so yeah, Bryce wanted to be better than that.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds like too. One thing I want to note is clearly you loved your kids, like, and you love Bryce. You clearly, like, I can get that, and Bryce loved you. Clearly.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it sounds like it was just a really somewhat complex family dynamic, somewhat complex just growing up. That's just how a lot of people pretty, stereotypical, but most families are very complex.
absolutely, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I was speaking to she's like a stepdaughter to me, and she's kind of going through my other son is kind of going. Both of my other sons are going through some real trials and tribulations right now, and so I'm speaking to my youngest son's sister, and she like I'm giving her insight into her family and into the dynamics between her mom and her dad. And she's like, my mom didn't tell me like the details. She told me this much, but she didn't tell me all the way. And I had to explain to her, number one, don't be upset with your mom because that's your father.
Mhm.
And I hate to say it, but it's always good to hear. It's always better, I think, to hear the truth about your father or or any parent from somebody who's not the other parent.
Mhm.
I'm not your mom. I was just married to your dad, so I could tell you everything. But your mom, she has to have a certain level of protection for you when it comes to your relationship with your dad. However, I feel I can come to you from a place of you need to know the generational curses that's
Mhm.
coming down your pipeline so that you can be prepared in your life.
Mhm.
You need to understand the mental illnesses. You need to even the physical illnesses that are coming down your pipeline so that you are better prepared. And I'm not telling you these stories from a place of I just want to gossip because I could have done that. I left him in 2011. So I could have been talking. You're at an age now where you're an adult. You're in
Mhm.
your own relationships. You've seen enough. You've had your own experiences, and you're now coming and asking me questions
Mhm.
about what happened. And you already have some. That lets me know you already have some of the information. You just don't have all of it. So now I'm going to give you the rest.
Mhm.
All right. And that to me is just a better process when it comes to these people, the young, our youth. We don't have to tell them everything, but when they do ask us questions, we should be honest with them and come from a place of also pointing out our own faults. I had to point out to her that I chose to be a woman that needed to be in control in her relationship. Why I chose your father, and I paid the price for it.
Mhm.
And so, not just telling you where he messed up, but also letting you know how I allowed all that to happen to myself, how I allowed myself to be the victim and not just play victim.
Mhm.
And that's how I raised Bryce. And then what ends up happening is Bryce, when now his friends come talking to him, he's telling his friends everything I'm telling him. And then eventually he'll bring them to me if they're in crisis.
Mm.
And that's kind of how we developed like that. That's how ESPN was able to come out and be like, she was like a mental health advocate in the community. I didn't even label myself that. It was just, I'm raising my children, and my children are in a community of children who are expressing and opening themselves up to my son on a deep level. And when he feels like it's overwhelming, he brings them to me. That's just what it was.
Yeah.
All right. And usually I've talked them through, but I would always just refer them to the services we were receiving. So now it's my career. Now I'm I'm working for mental health agencies. So
It sounds like
full
you
circle.
valued mental health. Clearly, you got them in therapy, you got them in counseling, you figured out,
So
um
my in high school, I was told by my guidance counselor that I was going to be like a therapist or something. So I've always been the mother in my group of friends and in my circle. I've always like I was teaching Sunday school at 11. At the same time, my grandmother had heart surgery, and I was the one that had to stay with her in order to help her recover during that time. So at 11 years old, I'm taking care of the young and the old. And at that same time is when my sexual abuse started. So
oh
at 11, I'm an adult now.
yes.
I mean, on reflection, at the time I didn't see it that way. But when I reflect on it today, I'm teaching Sunday school. I also was doing the accounting for tithes and offerings after church at 11.
Oh.
Yeah. And so when I reflect on those things, I recognize that my childhood was taken from me. And
Yeah.
so it was very important for me to make sure that my children had their childhood, but I still couldn't. There's two things to this. One, the household that we were in is the household that we're in. How I was raised is how I was raised. But two, I was given a child by God that had the mind of a genius
Yeah.
and the heart of a saint, right? And God was like, yeah, go ahead and protect that, guide that, and hopefully you keep up. And so I could not stop him learning how he decided to learn. I could not stop Bryce from finishing a book in less than 24 hours that was over 500 pages long. But then I have to remember, me and my brother had competitions like that. Okay, perfect example. There's a picture of me sitting in my older brother's lap. I'm 11, he's 14, and I'm holding open a Herman Hesse book. You know who Herman Hesse is? No? He's like he's like on the level of C.S. Lewis. You know
Mm,
C.S. He's like C.S. Lewis, but a lot more adult,
mm,
right? I'm not talking about C.S. Lewis like the Chronicles of Narnia. I'm talking about C.S. Lewis, The Road Less Traveled, but a lot more young or Freud to
okay.
it, right? And so I think the book we were reading was The Great Divorce.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like, and it's like this man traveling between heaven and hell and different layers, and it's just, yeah, those are the books we were reading. You know the movie Sybil?
Hmm.
I watched that at 11. Those were some of the movies in our catalog.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah. It sounds like you to your own right. Well, not only did you kind of get you I will say you got like taken advantage of, exploited as a child. That is why you were an adult child. But it sounds like obviously there are some traits like clearly you're intelligent, clearly you also pick up on like energies, you're empathetic, and you can kind of see that in both you and Bryce. And it's like me.
Yes.
And then the control thing, you mentioned you wanted to get a lot of control, but I don't think you control Bryce, so that was kind of a lesson for you.
Oh, absolutely. I tell so my issue, my dating life, my issue why I'm single. I've been single now for 12 years. I've had I've had long-term dating, like maybe 2.5 years here and there. But for the majority of my time, I would say for about a good 10 years, I've been single
Mhm.
throughout, just off and on. My problem isn't attracting men or keeping men around. It's which one do I choose?
Mm. Hmm.
All
Hmm.
right. But how I got here to this place with men is learning how to deal with my sons,
Hmm.
learning how to communicate with them. Because, like in my marriage, I tell people my husband was not the best man, but I, my marriage taught me the importance of words
Hmm.
and the power of the tongue. And even though my ex-husband was not the best, I had an issue with communication, and being disrespectful and being insulting. And I needed to check myself for that. And I literally started practicing specific communication tactics like the hamburger method or the fact feeling solution method with my sons. And I was like, oh, I got them to wash the dishes that fast? And then I took it out to the men out there in the streets and started using it. And so my sons taught me how to be a better woman,
Mm. Well,
right?
to be a better communicator too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, because it was very important for me, even though I was no longer married, to still be an example of how you should be treated by a woman,
Hmm.
even though you're my child. So I have to figure out a way to correct you or discipline you or guide you without belittling you, without making you feel less than, without, and so, or going into a dissertation. And I realized long talking does not work with boys.
No.
So I remember when we first moved, when we finally moved into our own place, people would come over all the time and be like, Siobhan, how you have three boys and the house is always clean, right? And I'm like, I would tell them, I'm like, go find something in the house that you want them to do. And they'll be like, oh, it's like a few dishes in the sink and there's like some crumbs on the counter. I'm like, all right, watch this. And I just sit in the living room with my feet kicked up and I go on my phone and I turn off the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And within 2 minutes, all three of them are like, Mommy, is there anything that needs to be done? Did we forget something? I don't have to say a word. And so I learned that by trying to be a better mom to my boys.
Mhm.
All right. Now, the first few times, it was like, something's wrong with the Wi-Fi. What's going on? Da, 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 da. And I had to let them know, I told you to have this done at such and such a time. It's now such and such a time and it's not done. So I turned the Wi-Fi off. But it only took like 3 instances for that to happen over the span of a week for them to just eventually like, Mommy, what happened? Well, what do you need? You need a cup of tea? Like, what is it that you need so we can get the Wi-Fi? We will cater to you anything that you need right now so we get the Wi-Fi. And I just recognize that actions just speak louder, especially when it comes to men.
Oh yeah, yeah, and sounds like you worked on, like, my mom likes to say, like, becoming a parent made her a better person, and so maybe that's how, I don't know. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but maybe that's how you feel too.
Mm. Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. My children raised me. My children raised me. I had to recognize at a very young age that I'm not, there is no control. I have no control here. I have no control here, but I can gain their respect.
hmm
I can do that. I can work on gaining their respect. And I would also tell them, like, if you have a problem with me, don't have a problem. Don't be afraid to come talk to me about it. And so my children check me all the time.
yeah,
They checked me, especially that second one. Oh, that second one. Oh, when he realized that I was serious about him being able to talk to me about anything, oh, he can get a little cruel. And I let him have it because that's your emotions. Like that's what you're dealing with. So you need that at that moment. But I go away. I'm not coming back to get bit again. So
hmm
after that, I'm gonna go take my peace and my silence and sit over there and lick my wounds. And when you're ready to come back and have a conversation, we can have a conversation. And wherever that conversation leads us, so be it. So I learned that by just being a parent and wanting my children to be able to express themselves with anybody, especially being young black males. I want you to be able to speak up and say whatever you have to say to anybody. And the best person for you to practice that with is me.
I mean, that's very true. You're the
Right.
safe for.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say safe because it was something like, ooh, when Bryce had that concussion, and his coach told him that if he wasn't on the field within 24 hours, he was going to miss them first 3 games.
Mm,
And he came home. That was the first time we had an argument. That was the second argument we ever had. But that was the first time we had an argument where he was cussing me out
mm,
bad. And I was going, I snapped. Because I've never dealt with this kind of disrespect, ever,
hmm
on any level from you, ever. Right. And so yeah, that was bad, that was real bad. And but things like, coach said you don't care about football.
mm,
We established that when you was coming into the ninth grade and coach said that you couldn't play quarterback because he didn't want his quarterback being pulled off the field because he got a seat.
mm,
Yeah, that's why you don't you that's why you ended up playing safety, tight end, and wide receiver and not quarterback, because that's what your coach said. I felt like your coach should have been like, you know what? Yes, you could be the quarterback, and you need to make sure you maintain your grades for your mom because we want our quarterback to be the best.
hmm
I think we want our quarterback to be a great example for the team. No, that's what I thought it was supposed to be about, but that's not what it was. So that's the type of thing. I'm like, I don't give a F about coach because Coach Ben didn't care when he didn't let you play quarterback. Like I would say slick stuff like that back.
hmm
And so he's like, oh, you don't care about football and da, 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 this, and that. And I'm doing this for us. And I'm like, I'm not asking you to do anything for, and that was another thing. I grew up with a mother that used to brag to her peers that she was going to ride my coattail.
mm,
All right. She just knew I was going to be famous. I'm 5'11". I play string bass in orchestra, this tall, beautiful instrument. I model. I have all these creative gifts and all. She just knew I was going to be famous. and she would brag to her peers that she was going to ride my coattail.
Mhm.
She would say stuff like, when I get old, y'all not going to put me in a nursing home. You better take care of me.
Mm.
And then I went through illness starting at 26.
Mhm.
So I was an old woman before I was a young woman. Like I was an adult as a teenager, and then by the time I'm in my mid 20s, I'm living life as if I am 80 years old on my deathbed.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Good.
then even after that, I lost all the weight and I had wrinkles and I had a body like a 80-year-old wrinkled woman. So I've had the full range of experience when it comes to health and wellness and how it ages you
Mhm.
at a very young age. When I really started recognizing my mom's toxicity
Mhm.
in my 30s, it took my 30s for me to finally really recognize it and be able to label it and identify it immediately. You know, start really paying attention and not giving her a pass because she's my mom.
Mhm.
And so when I started doing that, that's when I want to say that's when I recognized within myself that I didn't want to become that mom.
Mhm.
I didn't want to be the mom that felt like, especially since I have boys, especially since I'm a single mother who made the mistake of choosing men that are mama's boys.
Mm.
So the last thing I want to raise is mama's boys. There's a news article that Bryce did, and he's quoted saying that he's a self-proclaimed mama's boy. And then there's another interview where they ask him, why did you make sure to tell them to quote you as a self-proclaimed mama's boy? He said, because my mama don't want to raise no mama's boys. Like, that's something I would say to them often. Like, I'm not raising mama's boys. The goal is for you guys to leave and cleave. I know I'm your mother. I know you'll always be there for me. But as soon as you leave the house, I plan on packing my backpack and traveling across the world.
Mhm.
Wherever I work that day is how I'm going to eat and stay for the night. Like, I'm trying to live like that, a straight nomad. And they loved it. They knew I was serious because now I'm running 5 miles. I'm doing yoga. I'm already traveling on my own. I like to go out on my own. So they know that their mom's probably serious about this. But that was the plan. Like, you guys need to go off and find your own way and become men so that you don't create broken families.
Mhm.
All right. And so, yeah, Bryce was a self-proclaimed mama's boy. All of them are. They're self-proclaimed mama's boys. And I'm just like, y'all have to go. Not, I mean, you could stay as long as you need to, but you have to eventually decide that you want to
Do something.
do something and be something for
Yeah.
yourself, not for me. And so that narrative of I want to make it to the NFL to take care of my mom came in high school. He
Mhm.
wasn't talking like that before high school. Before high school, it was just, I love football. I found out that my dad was a beast and I want to be better than him.
Mhm.
That's what it was. Still probably not the healthiest, right?
Yeah.
Mindset because you're competing with your father or
Yes.
his past. But you're in therapy and we're trying to work through that. So I'm already aware that that's an issue. We're already working on that. But when it got to high school, all of a sudden it was, I'm doing this for you, mommy. And it's like, you ain't doing this for me. You an international baccalaureate for me.
Okay.
And by 10th grade, he was begging me to come out of it. And I was like, no, I don't care about football. I don't understand why people think that I should care about football. I care about football as much as you love it.
Yeah.
As long as you love it, I will be at your practices. I will be at your games. I will take you where you need to go. I will send you your Uber. I will help you get the money to get that plane ticket, that bus, wherever you need to go to follow what you want to do. But this is something that you want to do. Because the minute you look at me and say, Mommy, I want to be a veterinarian, guess what? I'm going to go find a magnet program that deals specifically with that and send you to that school. And that's how I was with all my children. My second son, I knew school was just not for him. By middle school, I was like, you're going to be homeschooled. After 2 years, he begged to go back to school. 2 weeks before Bryce passed, I was pulling him out of school again. I was like, you're going back into homeschool. You're going to finish out school and homeschool. I'm not going to go back and forth with the school.
Yeah.
I'd rather just raise my child myself and put you in a group of other peers that you have similar interests with. You like parkour, you like skateboarding. I'd rather you do that all day and then come home and get an education from your mama.
Hmm. Then mess around in school. Yeah.
You, and my last son, he was born. His nickname is Tonka because he didn't when he started crawling, he didn't move things out of his way. He bulldozed through it. And then from a very young age, like 6, 7 years old, we thought he was breaking things, but then we quickly realized that he was taking things apart meticulously and trying to put them together, but couldn't figure it out because he's still a baby.
Yeah.
So at first we were like popping him on his hand, like, don't do that, don't break your toys. But it just took one day for me sitting down just watching my child. And I'm like, oh, he's trying to put it back together. And then I started buying him kinetics and Legos and then I put him in Montessori school at 2 years old. Like he went straight into Montessori. And then from there I put him into STEM programs and STEAM programs. So this is the mom that I am.
Yes.
Like this is from birth. Like so
But swept up into the football hype, the hype of football. There's like a whole system behind it. So,
and a bunch of enablers of
mm,
the system. But and again, it's like I remember when we were homeless, coach said that. He was like, oh, Bryce ran away. He had a friend that was suicidal and I didn't want him to leave because we're staying in a hotel and I have to go work and your brother's going to be here alone and I don't trust your second brother. I don't trust your second brother to like really pay attention to the little one, all right? And he ran away to go be by this friend's side. I called the coach not because of anything more than I don't know where my child is.
mhm,
So coach ended up bringing him back to the hotel and we're sitting in the hotel lobby and he's like, you know, Bryce, you got to be focused. You got to get your mom out of this situation. So after that conversation, I pulled Bryce to the side. I said, listen, I'm the parent. You are the child. It is not your responsibility to get me out of this situation. All I need you to do is make sure that you are putting yourself in a position for you to take care of you. And you're already on the path. And I promise you, the more you are able to take care of you, the easier it'll be for me. The greatest help that you could give me as my child is you being able to take care of you. If you stop taking care of you to try and help me, we're both liable to fail. Because I'm thinking this is kind of what happened in my marriage. My ex-husband diverted all his attention to take care of me. And even though I'm like, go to work, like I'm gonna be good, he insisted on being there by my side and literally threw his own career away.
mhm.
And now we're financially struggling and I'm like, what are we doing? And that's a codependency. Like I don't need you to be codependent. I need you to be logical. I can't be the woman and logical right now. And
Yeah.
sick.
It's like you got to put your mask on first when you're like,
And so that was what I was preaching to Bryce. But unfortunately, when you have a group, a system of men that are trying to feed the system to better their own careers, or, maybe they think they're actually making a positive impact. I think a lot of these coaches think that they're really genuinely making a positive impact when they make these athletes responsible for their families.
mhm,
I think they genuinely believe that. I think they believe that it gives them motivation. And it probably does, especially if you're coming from dynamics and backgrounds like myself, where, there's a history of abuse and toxicity within the system and the family. And so I don't blame the coaches. I blame the system. But unfortunately, I have to call out the coaches.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I have to call out the administrative
yeah,
administration. Unfortunately, I have to call out myself in order for us to recognize how we're feeding into this system.
exactly. Um, yeah, that's how the system keeps going. And obviously, I'm from Texas and Florida.
Yes, that's another one.
Football is interesting here. Yeah, and all the money goes there. Why not put it in academics? Because people want it in football when they if you put it in academics, everyone can benefit.
Exactly. And you can still have football.
And you yeah, it's just not gonna have like the in to visit and the Corvette coming in to visit and the
Yeah,
so yeah. I think we're a little bit over time.
we are. But
So
like I said, I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable speaking with you.
yeah. Oh, I really appreciated it because I wanted to get more to know more about you, and I feel like we did get to do that through this. Because
Yes, thank you.
I'll say you were or are kind of a sport parent, you could say.
Yes, I am. I'm a total being athlete parent
Yes, yes,
because my child definitely made sure that me and the entire world knew that he was not just an athlete.
yes, exactly. So they call them sport parents, but we're on the same page here that it's about being. You could just remove the word sport from it, but we get to hear about the parents oftentimes. So I really appreciate you sharing. Is there anything else like I?
I mean, I would love to do this again and again and again and again. Just just keeping the conversation going as we continue down this journey. I love your platform. I love the information you share from the even all the way down to the technical aspects of breaking down different. Like I think I saw something recently. I don't think I got to like it, but I saw something recently about the foster system.
Mhm.
All right. And so I just think it's very important the work that you're doing. And now that you have your doctorates, I look forward to seeing the impact that you're going to make because I know that's going to open some amazing doors for you.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate it. I did love talking with you, and I enjoy continuing the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're going to go ahead and end it here. I'm